Welcome back. This is Johnny Claus here at A1A Vapors, and a lot of times people get tired of changing coils in their tanks, and they're like, Johnny, how tough is it to use an RDA or a dripper, or the technical term is a rebuildable dripping atomizer. And today I'm going to show you how to build one, a basic round wire build, a little bit about battery safety, and a little bit about wicking and building the coils correctly, and little necessary steps that will help you on your way to, expanding your use of drippers and tanks, and the benefits of using a dripper versus a tank. So to get started, one of the basic things you're going to need is an RDA or a dripper. So we're going to use the Vape Aquatas today, and open it up here so you can take a look real quick. And this is what it looks like, and we are going to need a build kit, which makes things a lot easier, and we're going to go with Old Faithful here, the Coilmaster build kit, and then we're going to use a dual battery mod to power it up. And the last thing we're going to need is some cotton. So I suggest the Vapefly Firebolt cotton. This has a nice little shoestring feature, which I'll show you the benefit of using this is. To get started, let's see what comes in the Coilmaster kit. The Coilmaster kit is pretty much an all-in-one kit that's great for building, and you can see here it comes in a nice hard case like this. You just zip it up and all your stuff fits inside, which is really handy. And what comes inside the kit is you have all these things here. So I'm going to pull them all out and show you. This right here is where you attach your atomizer or your dripper to this, and you can build on it. But what's nice is on this, which I'm going to show you how it works later, but you can flip this to one side and it's going to tell you the resistance of your build, and then on the other side it's powered by a single 18650, and you can actually fire it, your build, and break it in like that, which is really nice. And like I said, it uses a single 18650, which you put in here. Next, there's a needle nose pliers, which you'll use for squeezing your coils to make sure that they burn evenly. There's also a nice snipper, flush cutter, as you will, to snip your wires once you put your leads in, and I'll get to all that as we put the build on here. There is a metal tipped tweezers, which is nice for fluffing your cotton up and making sure that your dripper is wick correctly. There's a ceramic tweezers, which is nice so you can maneuver and move your coils around accordingly. Being that the ceramic tip, you won't cause a short or anything, as well as one Phillips head screwdriver, one flathead screwdriver, like so. The Coilmaster kit also comes with a roll of Coilmaster wire. This is 24 gauge Canthal, 10 feet of it. This is perfect for exactly what you need for your basic build. A few other things in here are a tri-tool, and this has 3 different Allen wrench size heads. A lot of the RDAs use Allen wrench grub screws to hold the leads in place. Little compact Coilmaster scissors, which you just, for cutting your wicking material to the right size. And then these are the Coilmaster jigs. You use these with the jig holder, and I'll show you how they work. And then these are, I don't know what the technical term is, but I'm just going to call it the jig spinners. And these have different sizes on them according to how big you want the inner diameter of your coil. And this has 6 different sizes, anywhere from 15 all the way up to 40, so 1.5 millimeters to 4 millimeters. So to get started, we're going to take the RDA here, like that, and we're going to take the cap off, like that. So as you can see, there's 4 lead holes. In any basic RDA, this little, looks like rubber piece right here, and how it'll align through it, that usually is the determining factor on where the positive and negative lead are. And when you're putting in like a dual coil or a single coil, you want one on each side of the peak insulator. One side will be the positive and one side will be the negative. I've done it myself, you know, not paying attention, and I put both leads into both of them in the positive and both of them in the negative. It's like no atomizer, what's going on, you know? So if it does that, maybe you should take a look and see if you didn't go positive positive instead of positive negative. But we're gonna take some wire here, and to start off with the basic build, I'm going to make a 4 or 5 wrap with 24 gauge on a 3 millimeter bit. So I'm gonna get my Coilmaster jig here and look for the one that says 30 right here, and then I'm gonna take this out like this, and I'm gonna take my jig holder, and this piece right here unscrews like this. And then what you do is take your jig holder, so to speak, and just drop this in here like that, and then you screw this together. On the jig holder slash spinner, there is 2 holes right next to you, and you can see them right there. So how I do it, and you can do it any which way you want, but alright, so what I like to do is I take the wire and I pull this straight down like this, and what I'll do is you want to take the 30 millimeter jig spinner and you'll slide this onto the shaft of the jig, and what you want to do is spin it nice and smooth, and see how I have the wire straight down like the 6 o'clock position. So every time I spin it, it counts as 1 wrap. And what I want to do is build a 5 wrap with a 30 millimeter bit with a 24 gauge cantho. It should ohm out to like a 1.0, 1.1, 1.4 on the high side. So let's just show you how easy it is to spin a coil with the Coilmaster build kit here. So I have the wire in there, and when doing this, you want to spin it and apply a little pressure on this piece going that way, so the coil wraps smoothly and tight, but you don't want to push too hard that way because it'll wrap on top of each other. So obviously I've done this a few times, so I'm just going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and I give it a little extra twist past the 6 o'clock mark. And then what I'll do is I'll unscrew this, and I'll slide the jig out, and I will take the coil out of the top of the jig spinner, or jig hole, whatever you call it, and here's a good look at the coil. And then I'm going to cut this with the supplied Coilmaster flush cutters here, and I always like to cut a little extra because it's easier to cut more later than, you know, put it back, because once you cut it off, it's gone. So, you know, holding on to the end, just give that. So here's a close look at the first coil for the basic build, and then I'm gonna do the same thing. And obviously you can tell that this is very, very quick and easy, and that's why having the Coilmaster kit is super simple to use. And let's see here, so I'm going to do it again here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if there's any consistency, using this Coilmaster kit would definitely help making consistent coils. Yes, you can use a screwdriver, an Allen wrench, and just do it by hand, but this is really consistent. Alright, so once you get your wires wound with the Coilmaster jig, you're going to have 2 perfectly formed coils like this, and what you want to do is cut the leads so you can put them in your RDA and line up the coil with the airflow. And I'm going to show you how to do that here. Just put them in jig here, and once you get them centered up and cut to the correct length, you want to tighten the lead grub screws and it's pretty easy. And then what I do is I'll take the cap and I'll sort of line it up so the airflow hits right at the coil or right below the coil, so you get flavor from both sides, depending on if you want a warm vape or a cool, flavorful vape. Depends on how close you want to have the coil to the airflow, and I'll show you that in 1 second. Once I put the second coil in, which I'm doing right now, it's relatively easy. You can use the jig here to hold the actual coil that you just wound, and we'll fire it up and make sure it heats correctly. And for a coil to warm up correctly, it'll warm up from the middle out, and we want to make sure there's no hot spots, and I'll show you what those look like if we have any here. So I'm going to tighten these up. I'm going to read the resistance with the Coilmaster ohm reading tool, and we're going to reposition these coils to the ideal location, and you'll see here by using this jig makes things a little bit easier. Once you do this a few times, it's like not an issue at all, and you can just spin new coils really quick. And from the top side looking down, you want to make sure the coil is straight and doesn't lean out too far to the point that it hits your cap, because if it hits your cap you'll have a short and it won't fire. So let me tighten these up here real quick and get them all centered up, and we'll fire it up here, and then I'll show you how to wick it, or not. Let's see here. And sometimes if you cut your leads too short, the grub screws won't grab, so you want to make sure that you cut it to the correct length. Little trial and error. In due time, after a few builds and setups, you'll have this down without issue. So right now I'm screwing them in, and make sure they're tight and positioned in the correct location, like that. And you want to make sure that they're looking good. And this one is a little loose, so I'm going to readjust it and make sure it's tight. With the Vape Aquatas RDA, it's a drop style RDA, which means that you can just put the coils in from the top. You don't have to worry about putting them in sideways and holding them to the correct position, which makes these relatively easy for a beginner to start building and using a RDA. So let me and tighten this up here, and I'm going to readjust this coil like this. And looking from the top down, you want to have it so it looks like that. You may want to straighten them out a little bit, but that's the basic idea. I'm going to readjust these, and you want to definitely fire these coils before you put cotton in them. Make sure there's no hot spots. So with the Coilmaster jig here, or the Coilmaster ohm reading tool, you just flick this lever to the side. That's your battery power, and that is the build. Right now it's a 0.28, which is definitely safe. You can use this on any regulated mod, and you can put it on a damn phone, and you can put it on a single Mac, but we'll get into that later. When you build your first RDA, we strongly suggest that you build on a regulated mod. It's going to have the protections in it that are going to protect you from any malfunction or injury of that sort. So we're going to flick this to the other side here. We're going to fire it up real quick, and you'll see that it'll heat up like so, and see how it was warming up from the outside in. You want to make sure that these fire evenly, and I'm going to grab my ceramic tweezers, which are over here, that come in the build kit, and I'm going to adjust these. And the ideal setup is once they both heat up evenly from the outside in, then you're in good shape. Heating from the outside, so you can strum the coils like so. And let's fire it up again. Looks like they're heating up pretty evenly. You definitely want to pulse them. If you have this on your mod, pulse it like 40-50 watts. Don't just hold it down and let them get glowing red. But see, that's nice and even. If you have any hot spots, it's going to look like a very bright red thread. Other ways to get these things to heat up evenly is you squeeze them and you can strum them like this. So let's just warm it up one more time here, and it's looking nice and even. Both are heating up evenly. So I'm going to show you how to wick these, and we're going to turn the tab off here. So moving on, now I'm going to grab my cotton like this, and what's great about the vape fly cotton is actually it comes shoestringed, and which is, you know, makes things a lot easier. I'm going to show you how to cut the cotton and adjust it to the correct length and such. What I was saying about the airflow and the cap, see how the coils are extending past the top of the deck, and what I do is I put the cap right next to it, and so the airflow is hitting the coil, you know, directly, you know, right at it or under. Being that this is the Hell Vape Aquatas, it has a directional airflow, so this is actually going to scoop under the coil through the center channel here, which is sort of like just built in, and you're going to get flavor from both the top side and the bottom side of the coil. So I'm going to wick this up, and we're going to continue on shortly here. Once you get your cotton, you want to, you know, push it through and make sure it's nice and even on both sides. And you know, when you get cotton, like, you know, Japanese organic cotton, it comes in sheets like this. You can just tear off a piece, and people ask me, like, how do you know if it's too much or too little? Well, if it's like this, but not too loose that you just pull it right through, like, without issue, then you probably need a little more cotton. These are almost perfectly sized, so I'm going to wick this one up, and I'm going to cut it, and we'll get it all set up here, and we'll fire it up. So once you get your coils wicked up, what I like to do is just fold this down sort of towards the base of it, and that gives me a general idea of how much cotton to cut off. You don't want the cotton like overlapping. You just want it just sort of like dangling down on the base of the juice well. So, you know, we're gonna give this a little snip here and trim it up a little bit, and then we're going to take our metal tip tweezers and fluff it out. And what that does here is when I do it like this, what that does is that just thins it out a little bit, so the juice can, through capillary action, wick up the coil a little bit quicker and smoother like that. So I'm gonna wick this up here, and then I'm gonna get a final trim, and then we'll put juice on it and fire it up. Alright, so once you get your cotton wicked up like this, you want to tuck it in on the side here into the juice well. You want to make sure there's no cotton hanging out or whatever, and then we're going to put some juice on it, fire it up, and then put it on our device and see how it goes. What are we vaping on today? We are vaping on Elysium Labs Vanilla Cake. So what I'm going to do here is wick it up and run with it here and make sure that it tastes good. This Elysium Labs vanilla cake is amazing. They make peanut butter vanilla cake, upside down pineapple cake, and espresso cake. It's actually really good stuff. So let's see here. Let's just wrap this up. You want to make sure your cotton is completely saturated, and we're just gonna test fire it here. So make sure that cotton is nice and broken in, and one thing about this RDA, which is great here, is you can see the little channel under the coil, and air will flow through it, and you'll get a lot of flavor. So let's do that real quick. Make sure this is saturated. Usually the way I set up my RDAs is enough cotton inside, but not too much that you can just drip it right down the middle, and the cotton is going to wick it up really nice. And you don't have to take your cap off every time to paintbrush it. And what I mean by paintbrush it is a lot of people take their cap off every single time they drip it, and they go like that. So I'm going to flick this over here, and we're going to see how it, and there we go. So we're going to go up top and put it on our RDA, or put the cap on our RDA, and then put it on our mod and take a couple of vapes. So be right back. So once you get your RDA wicked up and juiced up, I'm going to put a little more juice on this real quick. We're going to fire it up here, and this is making some vapor. When you put your cap on, you want to have the airflow right where the coils are, right there. So I'm going to put this on, make sure it's on nice and snug, and we'll just take a rip here. The flavor out of this is amazing. This Elysium vanilla cake, you know, when you step from a tank to a dripper, some of the benefits are increased flavor. You'll get the satisfaction of building your own coils. A bag of cotton is about the price of a single coil replacement probably, and then you can get a spool of wire, and once you learn how to build it, I mean, you're going to save a lot of money instead of replacing coils. Yes, having a tank is convenient, but if you're really, you know, looking for flavor, a rebuildable drip atomizer might be the way to go. But I'm Johnny Clouds signing off. Have a fantastic Friday, everyone, and keeping it cloudy here at A1A Vapors. Have a good weekend and keep on vaping.